Hello everyone, welcome to my book reviews for December, and I did manage to get through 7 books. The first book is The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. So the main character is Wiley Lark, and she's a true crime writer, and she decides to rent this very isolated farmhouse to finish up her story. Now, I think it's about 20 years ago, there was a double homicide at this farmhouse, and a local teenage girl went missing. So she decided to rent this farmhouse to finish her story. It's a little bit of inspiration. And at that time, there is a snowstorm going on outside when she arrives. Her cell phone, I can't remember if she broke it or it's not working. She broke it, I think. Anyway, so she's completely isolated. She goes outside at one point and finds this young boy, this young boy in the snow, and she brings him inside. And she doesn't know where the parents are, where the family is. And at the same time, we're getting flashbacks to the same farmhouse where 2 people were murdered, and then this young teenage girl went missing. So it kind of goes back and forth about what happened in the past, what led up to these double homicides. And we also find out that there's some really strange things starting to happen at this farmhouse, but I can't say anymore. So yeah, it was very atmospheric when she was out during the snowstorm and that sort of thing. It was very good atmosphere for reading in December, I have to say, though we had very, very little, if any, snow in December, but it was very atmospheric. I did sort of figure out the culprit throughout. There were some red herrings, but I kind of figured it out, so it wasn't a huge surprise. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. It did get mixed reviews. I did enjoy it, though. It was one of those books that kind of had a cliffhanger at the end of each chapter, so you felt like you had to keep going. So the pacing was pretty good. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I give about 3.7 for that one. And the next book is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale. So I previously read this and gave it a 5-star, and this is by Catherine Arden. So this takes place, it's like a Russian folklore. It's based on Russian folklore many, many centuries ago. It takes place in Rus, and that's what Russia was called many centuries ago. And at the time, it was taken over by the Mongols. So they were the rulers at the time, but there were still princes and lords and that sort of thing throughout Russia. And Vasilisa, her father is a lord in this isolated village about a 2-week journey from Moscow. And at that time, there was elementals both in the home and throughout the forest. And these were creatures who had certain powers, and if you gave them offerings, which people did all the time, they kind of protected your home and protected you when you're out in nature, etc. And then a priest comes, and a stepmother comes, and all hell breaks loose. So yeah, this one was so good. I gave this a 5-star, and I just absolutely love her writing style. So this is a sequel, which is The Girl in the Tower, and this follows Vasilisa on her journey. I can't really say what happens during this book because it'll give away too much from book 1. But yeah, it's just such a well-written story. I just love her writing style. She knows how just to write a really, really good book, and it was hard to put down. And I love the main character. I love the other characters. So yeah, it's another maybe 4.5, 5 stars for me. And I do have the 3rd and final book in the series, The Winter of the Witch, which I hope to get to this winter. Then, the next book I read was Midwinter Blood by Marcus Sedgwick, and I love the cover. I used to have a bunny who was litter trained. I love bunnies, so I was really drawn to this cover. So this is it's kind of an odd book, but I did enjoy it. So there's actually about 7 different stories, shorter stories within the story. So initially, the story takes place in the future, 2073, and this man, Eric, is going to this remote and very secretive island, and there's just a lot of strange things that happen. Like, there's no children born on this island. It doesn't seem like people really age too much. There's supposed to be this secret, powerful flower on the island, and he wants to go and investigate. And then the other stories, one takes place in July of 2011, one takes place in 1944, 1902, 1848, the 10th century, and Time Unknown. Each of these stories, there's 2 characters that show up in every story, Eric and Meryl. Now, in each story they have a different relationship, and sometimes Meryl doesn't even show up. She is sort of a distant character, but in each story there is these 2 characters and how they are connected, and you see along the way how these characters are connected throughout these centuries and how everything kind of comes together at the end. I wasn't a big fan of the ending, but yeah, it was interesting. It was a very interesting concept of how they kind of went back in time and that sort of thing. So I give it about a 3.5 star. And I love that cover. And this is Death of an Alchemist by Mary Lawrence, and this is a second book in the Bianca Goddard mystery series. And this takes place in the 15th century, the King Henry reign. Bianca is a young woman. She is a apothecary. Her father, I should say, was an alchemist. So they were always looking for the elixir of immortality, or trying to change common metals into gold and that sort of thing. And they did have a falling out. So Bianca, in the first book anyhow, was living on her own, and she makes medicines for people around the village, and that's how she makes a living. And in the first book, she's accused of murder, and she has to clear herself. And as she's trying to investigate things, she kind of digs up some nasty things that are happening in the city of London and that sort of thing. Now this one, she is married and her husband is ill, so she goes to this alchemist who says that he has found the elixir of immortality, and she goes there and talks to him a bit, and she's going to go back the next day, but she finds him murdered, and she has to figure out who murdered him. And at the same time, her husband's quite sick and that sort of thing. So it's sort of like a murder mystery, and I really do like Bianca's character. I love history. I love murder mysteries that take place in the past, and just how they lived and that sort of thing. So yeah, this is give this about a 4 star, and I think there's 2 or 3 other books in the series that I have. And this is Flora's Traveling Christmas Shop. Oh, I just gotta cool off. Okay, so after reading some of these kind of heavy-duty books, I just need something lighthearted and something to cleanse the brain there. I don't usually read romance, very, very rarely. I don't mind some romance in books, as long as it's not the main theme of the story, I guess. Throw some romance in, I don't care. But I just find a lot of romances. I do like Jenny Colgan, though. But yeah, I just find them a little bit predictable, and I don't know. But I thought this would be very atmospheric. It was a cute story for December, and that's the Flora's Traveling Christmas Shop by Rebecca Raisin. So the main character is Flora, and she's kind of flighty. She's a bit ditzy. She absolutely is obsessed by Christmas. As soon as November hits, she's like decking all out in Christmas, and she has a poor dating history because you know, if the guy's not interested in Christmas or doesn't show any enthusiasm for Christmas, that's it. It's over. So she ends up losing her job, and she's living with a roommate who's moving to the States, and so she decides to rent this van and go up to northern Finland where there's this Christmas market. She's always wanted to go there to Lapland and see the reindeer and do all this stuff. So she gets there, and of course she meets this guy who she's really interested in, but he hates Christmas. Even though he runs this Christmas market, he hates Christmas, and she wants to change his mind. And yeah, it was pretty predictable. Yeah, she was kind of a cute character. She was ditzy and flighty and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I give it a 3-star. It's just, you know, I gave romance a chance. If you know a good romance, that's like a good, decent romance that's not predictable, let me know. This next one I did enjoy, though it has gotten mixed reviews. The Drift by C.J. Tudor. Now, I have read The Burning Girls from C.J. Tudor, and I really enjoyed that. It was kind of like a murder mystery in this small village. But I did actually enjoy this one. So this follows 3 different stories, so like 3 books into one book. So initially there is a overturned bus full of students, and the way the bus landed and the exit for some reason is not working. They can't find a hammer to break the windows. They're trapped. And the second story is a stranded cable car going up a mountain full of strangers. And then there's an isolated chalet full of these friends/workers. And during all of these stories, there's a snowstorm that is raging. And inside each of these stories, inside the bus, inside the cable car, inside the chalet, there is a killer lurking. So this actually takes place in the future, and C.J. Tudor said that she got the idea of the story in 2019, and then the COVID epidemic happened in 2020. So this is a in the future where this very virulent plague is taking over. Civilization is basically collapsing. The only sort of cure or vaccine is actually extracting it from people who actually have the disease, but that's difficult because they die very quickly. So yeah, this just basically civilization is just falling apart. And so yeah, I really did enjoy this. This was such, like, this is one of those books again that had a cliffhanger at the end of each short chapter. It wasn't long chapters, they're short chapters, so cliffhanger at the end. I kept reading and reading. It was just so hard to put this book down. I did like it. Now, there was in each story, there's about 7 characters in each story, and I thought, oh my god, I'm never going to keep track, but I did. Usually that many characters, I'm just like going back all the time, who's this, but I didn't, for some reason I didn't. I was able to keep track. Now, these 3 stories, at the end, they all come together and you figure out, I don't know if it's necessarily a twist, I don't know if I'd call it a twist, but it's a big reveal, and I just really enjoy how the author put these 3 stories together for the big reveal. And yeah, I liked it. I give this like a 4-star. I really did it. Well, 4.25, let's say. I really did enjoy it. Yeah, I do have other C.J. Tudor books actually from a few years ago that I really do need to get to, like the Chalk Man and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's the second book I read of hers, and I enjoyed it. And the last book I read was The Blue Salt Road by Joanne M. Harris. And oh, just one of the most beautiful books I've seen in a long time. And it had, this is the end papers. And throughout it had quite a few different illustrations throughout the book. That just added a nice little something to the story. So this is based on the folklore of Selkies, who are seals that can come onto land, shed their skin, and be human, and then they can go back into the water whenever. And there's been a lot of stories of how some men trap the Selkies on land by stealing their skins. And if they steal and hide their skins, they can't get back into the water. They become very obedient and almost slave-like. For my camera, I had to change the battery there. So yeah, if they can trap this Selkie on land by hiding their furs, the Selkie becomes very obedient, and a lot of the men, that's how they find a wife, is by stealing these Selkies' furs. And this particular woman in the story actually ends up stealing this seal's or Selkie's fur and hiding it, and she kind of tricks him into getting married, and the ramifications of what happens after that and how devastating it is for this particular Selkie. So yeah, it was I think I read one YA fiction about a Selkie, and it wasn't too bad, but this one is I think it was just very, very well written. I really enjoyed her take on it. And I think it's just the arrogance of the human race, how because you're not human, or because you're different from us, that your lifestyle can't be as good as ours. And the one quote is, "I did him a favor, in a way. I rescued him. Among the Selkie, he was nothing but a savage, an animal, with no knowledge of God, no education, no decency." So yeah, just the arrogance of people thinking that trying to change a person or trying to change a culture will do a world of good for that person or that culture, and how false that is and how devastating it is for the people. So yeah, I give that a 4-star. Really enjoyed that particular book, and I would like to read some more of hers. So right now I am reading The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex Harrow. And a couple months ago I did read her debut, not her second novel, and that was The Once and Future Witches, which I really enjoyed. I think I give this like a 4.5 stars, something like that. So I'm about halfway through. I gotta show you the cute little, when I was in Scotland, I got this cutest little wood bookmark with a sheep on it. So when you close the book, little guy's peeking out at you there. Yeah, this one was a very slow start. I thought I was going to have to set it down and just leave it for a while. The first 100 pages is very slow, not a lot happens. A very fascinating concept, a fascinating story. It was just very slow, and it's finally picked up, and it's getting much more interesting. A lot more is happening. So this it's sort of like a book within a book. So there is this character, January Scholar, whose mother has died, and her father is off on these trips for this wealthy man all the time, and she rarely gets to see her father. And the wealthy man that she's staying with has this huge collection of various items from across the world and that sort of thing. And one day she happens to go through this door in the middle of this field, and she ends up in this different world for a few minutes, and she goes back over. And then another story is this young woman who's out in this field, and this gentleman comes through this door in the middle of this pile of timbers, and they talk for a while. He goes back and she never sees him again. So somehow these two stories are connected. But yeah, it's getting interesting now. I love her writing style. It's beautiful how she writes. It was hard to get into. If you can get through the first 100 pages, then it starts picking up. But yeah, other than that, it's an interesting story. So that's it. That's my reading wrap up. So I hope you enjoy. So we got some snow squalls today, so it's a perfect day to kind of hunker down and enjoy a book. Everyone, happy reading for January, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.